I would love if Jeff Hadley's that coach. Jeff is super smart, got a big forehead, big head. We call him Mega Mind. That's okay. He'll understand the joke. But he is a great dude. So he can definitely, you're cracking up. He can definitely handle his.
And now NFL IQ with Cynthia Frelund and Logan Ryan. Welcome to week 11 of NFL IQ. My man, we're going to get to it, but I saw you in the broadcast booth. I was watching from Germany. A little tear came down my... Anyways, we're going to talk about it in a minute. But Logan, I missed you. Happy week 11. By the way, if you have not already, subscribe on this channel. Make sure you follow us on X. I'm C. Frelund. He's Real Logan Ryan. The show is NFL IQ Show. It's going to be great. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. And Logan,
Yes.
how are you?
Smash that subscribe button. I was off last week. I was calling a game, and 2 weeks is too long, Cynthia. I'm not going to lie. I missed it. I'm happy that I'm back. I'm happy you're back from Germany. I know flights have not been too kind to anybody right now. So I'm happy you're able to make it back and we're able to get another episode down on the pod.
Totally. So, all right. Big news. It's over your, I guess that's your right shoulder, your right camera left shoulder. That is a New York Giants helmet behind you. So we have some news. Brian Daboll is now no longer the head coach of the New York Giants. And now we have Mike Kafka stepping in as interim head coach. We have Joe Schoen still there. I would like to know, what was your first reaction and how can we move forward?
I mean, utterly shocked and confused. Honestly, look, I was one of the first firings of the Shane and Daboll regime of one of the players they released, which I didn't know why I was getting released. I didn't feel like I was an issue there, but they hadn't made their decisions, and a lot of them up for debate, whether they're good or bad. Don't look like they've made a lot of the best decisions, obviously, but I thought this would have happened before the season. The fact that it happened in the middle and Jackson Dart, and you think Daboll would be a good coach for a young quarterback. That's why he's there, and they finally look like they got the quarterback of the future. So I thought all of it, the timing has just been very, very surprising for me in this whole regime. But in the middle of the season, and I think Daboll being fired, but Joe Schoen still there is also the biggest question mark for me.
Well, the first thing I thought is like, I'm watching this game and I'm like, all right, so Jackson Dart gets a concussion and then you fire your coach. Like, it doesn't feel like that. They had a good game plan. Things were going well against the Bears. Who knows what would have happened had they been able to execute the game plan that they thought for the full game. But they didn't look totally like it didn't look disorienting. They looked like they were a team that could absolutely win games. So that was the thing that was a bit confusing for me. But that's happened. We can't control it. We're not really the ones making those decisions, but now we can forecast going forward. What do we think? Jackson Dart does feel like a quarterback you can build around. There are some good pieces on that team. Look, Cam Skadoo being injured as well is a problem too. The defensive front is good. Where would you kind of start when you're looking at what kind of profile for a head coach would work best here?
Look, I played for the New York Giants. I was a captain for the New York Giants. And it is a very loud place to play in terms of the media, in terms of the fan base. And those are good things. It's a big city, and you got to deal with that. And I think so much of it, whether people like it or not, it has to come to discipline. Like, you have to have someone that has full autonomy and control of how they want the team to play. And that could be a defensive guy like a Mike Vrabel, right? But he came in and you got young Drake May. And you're like, well, why are we hiring Vrabel? We have Drake May. Shouldn't we get an offensive coach that can call the plays? Well, he hired a Josh McDaniels who's developed. Like, that is Vrabel's most important hire. So in my opinion, I'm not saying it has to be an offensive coach just because you have Jackson Dart, right? It can be a Ben Johnson who's an offensive coach, but he brings discipline. He brings structure. So you have to have someone, in my opinion, in that market where I played, that can have the team going in one direction, because you have Malik Neighbors coming back. You have Cam Skadoo, Tyrone Tracy, a good running back room. You have a high-paid, highly productive defensive front, right? And you might lose some pieces of that, but you have, a young defensive front or a real productive defensive front. And a lot of those things are good things to have when you're building a football team, but they got to be going in the right direction because if you don't win in New York, and when you don't win right away, you see how loud that can get over there. And I don't care the side of the ball, but I would bring someone that's going to have a plan and is going to stand on business in the press conferences a little bit of a strong personality type. I would bring that in. They can be old, they could be young, they can call offense, they can call defense. So I don't know if that answers your question, but definitely someone with a strong personality would have to be the head coach there, in my opinion.
So I was looking around the league as to kind of what we could potentially draw from, right? You can't give Rabel. You can't, some of those guys we mentioned, they're not up for grabs, right? So one of the people that came to mind for me, we know that you talked about it, and I totally agree. It doesn't have to be on the offensive side of the ball. You could hire the right offensive coordinator. Maybe that's why they made the move so early, so they can kind of get a person with all of their pieces in play. Like they can the job is now known. I know they're not allowed to talk to people till a certain time. Okay. But ultimately, you kind of construct your total team, a head coach or a potential head coach, they get their allies quick, right? So Josh knew Mike would potentially take him. They have their
Yeah,
allegiances.
what's
So
their plan? Their coaching staff matters. Who's going to be your play caller if it's a defensive guy? That
100%.
matters.
So Jeff Hafley, interesting picture for me on that one. Why? Because let's see what these Packers have done, right? The Packers, they had a interesting front before Micah Parsons came. Now they have a strong front. I understand on Monday Night Football, you didn't see a lot of craziness from Micah Parsons, but devoting resources to shutting him down did change the landscape of that game. I mean, they only allowed 10 points, so it's not like the
Yeah, that's
defense
a great
was
defensive performance, by the way. If you hold the Eagles to 10 points, right? Like, you don't play offense on
right.
defense. You hold them to 10 points, you did your job. The most you control as a defensive
That's right.
coordinator for sure to hold the Eagles to 10 points.
And one of the other things we've seen all season long from the Packers is no big plays, right? Like they're not giving up like those explosives, and those explosives are game changing in many, many ways. Also, if I'm the Giants, I'm watching that performance against the Eagles specifically last night, and I'm like, who's in my division and I have to see twice? Those darn Eagles. So I'm looking at Jeff Hafley and I'm saying maybe if you start to, and by the way, there's always this like Boston College connection to the Giants for whatever reason, but there is. And ultimately, you're looking at this, and I would be trying very hard to figure out the right offensive pairing with a Jeff Hafley because I'm just, look, I'm speculating. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you as an outsider what I would like to see for a franchise that is a very like historically important, relevant franchise. You've played there. Matthias Hunuka, one of my best friends of all time, played there. I want everyone to be good because I like good football, but if you're gonna move in a different direction, I don't know, I kinda like that profile. How do you feel about that?
You know that's my guy,
I know
Jeff
that's your
Hafley.
guy.
I've talked about that. That's my guy. I've been coached by Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel, Dick LeBeau, Kyle Shanahan, Todd Bowles. I've been coached by some Hall of Fame coaches in there, and Jeff Hafley is up there, one of the most influential coaches in my life. Positive, demanding, gets the most out of his players. Anywhere he goes, he turns to gold. So he's definitely going to be in that interview process. He's a guy I plug and promote 100%. If Jeff Hafley gets that opportunity, right, it's going to depend how the Packers play and their unit plays and all that stuff. But if you interview that man is going to be a head coach. I've said that in this podcast, and I would love if Jeff Hafley's that coach. Another guy, maybe the wrong Brian that they texted the first time, Brian Flores, if we remember that story. Brian Flores. What
Another
about
Boston
that?
College guy. Hey.
Boston College. If you want personality, if you want discipline, if you want a coach who's gonna stand on his business, now again, it's gonna be depending on who his offensive coordinator is. But you wanna see that Giants defense in that front play aggressive and blitz? How much do we talk about Minnesota's defense? Every single week, we say, when you play a Brian Flores defense, you better be ready. They're gonna blitz you, they're gonna pressure you, they're gonna play with attitude, right? If you gotta find that pairing with him, though. But Brian Flores, another coach I played for, great addition. Brian Flores, Jeff Hafley, I think those are 2 plugs we can get out of this one,
Yeah.
but I think both those guys would do well there.
So Brian Flores obviously was at Boston College when I was there. He was like a senior when I was a freshman. He and Dwan Daniels was one of the Patriots scout when you were there, were my orientation leaders. So it was very funny to see that. And I can promise you, Brian Flores, he has stood on his business since he's been in college. Like he was kind of like, Like, he wasn't no fun in college, but he wasn't, like, the most fun in college. He was very
He's
serious,
serious.
very focused, native New Yorker as well. I like that. Not
Yes.
worried about him in those press conferences. You know, you can speak to more about if Jeff Hafley has that New York vibes, like, the ability to handle, like, really tough media. From what I've seen, yes, but I don't you have the firsthand knowledge, but I can tell you Brian does for sure.
Oh, Brian can handle it. Jeff is super smart, got a big forehead, big head. We call him Mega Mind. That's okay. He'll understand the joke. But he is a great dude. So he can definitely you're cracking up. He can definitely handle his. I'm gonna throw another one out there since I'm plugging all my people.
Yeah.
Jags DC, Anthony Campanelli, right? We talk about the Jags, how they came out hot defensively and all that stuff. Now, again, it's gonna depend how they finish. This guy's Don Bosco jersey through and through. You want Italian accent up there, you want someone that's, paisan. You want someone that's gonna be speaking about passion and knowing about Jersey football and New York football. Anthony Campanelli is another one that coached me that is passionate from New Jersey through and through, born and raised. He understands that area. So, young D coordinator, right? But he's doing his thing as well. I think all these guys will be head coaches. They're just waiting their turns, right? And how the industry works. But all those guys are defensive guys. And I think you need somebody that can ha protect the building, protect the players, and Anthony Campanelli is like a Dan Campbell type of vibe, like a little extreme, but like bringing identity, and I think they need some of that identity in there in New York because you can't be blowing leads. I talked about this. You can't be blowing leads when you're highly paid on defense. Like, that's not it. So I think they need someone to really change it around up there, and I think the building's good and all that stuff. A culture change is the most overused term with this stuff, but I think those guys will set the standard and demand excellence.
Okay, so I'm gonna say one more. I'm gonna add one more since we're talking about paisans who are defensive-minded guys, and that's Lou Anarumo, who he's from Staten Island, so also checks the New York bill. He's worked for the Giants before, so there's familiarity there. He has the personality that people like, and I would say that the Colts defense is doing a pretty good job, especially compared to what we thought. Again, as I always say, pretty sure it wasn't a Lou's fault in Cincinnati. Just gonna put it out there, but that's another one who I think could very much handle New York. I mean, he is a New Yorker, so that also is one to keep an eye on.
It's gonna be an interesting job to track.
I think it's funny that we've only really mentioned I was looking through, like, the potential offensive-minded head coaches is an interesting one, to think about, but we've talked about defense, like, it feels like it's a defensive one now. There is one name that we haven't brought up that is currently in the college ranks. Very interesting. You've played for him. UNC is not having the kind of year I think they expected to have. There's some funny stuff we could always talk about, but we're not going to. That's not the focus of this podcast, although it's kind of funny. But ultimately, is Bill Belichick someone who you could potentially see as a fit? Because you talk about old and in a good way, wise and being able to handle media. Bill's one of the scariest ones that they come. So,
Oh, yeah, he'll definitely set the standard over there. There'll be some do your job signs, and, I think that the Mara family and them always had a respect for Bill,
oh yeah,
definitely, and he's as old school. I mean, he's the godfather of all these of it all. They all kinda come under that tree, Jeff Hafley, Campanelli, both coached at
Brian
Rutgers
Flores.
under Greg Schiano, who is from the Belichick tree, and then Brian Flores, honestly, obviously coached under Bill Belichick and learned defense from Bill Belichick. So he's the godfather of all these coaches, right? It's just what's his offensive plan to develop the quarterback?
So I want to point out the 33rd team research came up with told us something very interesting about the Giants defense specifically. So in the first half, if you look at everything from yards per play allowed, EPA, success rate, explosive play rate, first down rate, they're no better than 11th, but no worse than 18th. So let's call them mid in the first half on defense. Second half adjustments for defense, massively important. I'm sure you can speak to that in 1 second after I say that. Where do they rank in second half defense in yards per play, EPA, success rate, explosive plays, first down rate? Worst. They go right to the worst, like no better than fourth worst. So the adjustments in the second half for the defense are making it so hard on the offense to succeed that I actually think we might be on the right track here with a defensive-minded coach going forward because, people kinda underestimate that's where Spags is so good for the Chiefs. That's where Lou Anarumo is actually exceptionally good for the Bengals or for the Colts, what you see the adjustments in the second half. So, I mean, can you speak to that? Like, how important is that specifically to be able to look at halftime on offense and on defense, tinker around and find the right combination?
Yeah, Magic Johnson once said, like, I think I saw one of his shows or read a book or something, and he said, the final 5 minutes of the game is winning time. And honestly, that's how NFL games are. I mean, they're one-score games. Most games we know are field goal, one score, who gets the ball last, the last 2 possessions are how majority of games are ended just because the competition's so level, right? And who's gonna make mistakes down the end, and for whatever that is, your coach, I talk about how that's a huge advantage, and your team's either gonna be winning it down the stretch or they're gonna be blowing it, and we see that time and time again, especially with the Giants, where, like, how do you blow that lead? How do you lose that? And it's just you don't have a belief that you can win those games. How do the Chiefs, not always this year, but usually always come back all the time, 19-0 or 16-0 in one-score games? That's insane. Analytically, statistically, that shouldn't be the odds. You should be 50-50 in one-score games, right? But they have Patrick Mahomes, they have Andy Reid, they have Spagnuolo. They know what to do down the stretch to win the game, right? That's when 4th down comes alive, right? You're not punting because you gotta go for it, and all those big crucial decision making and timeout usage and what do you do in this situation all comes alive in the final 4 minutes, final 6 minutes of the game. So
I looked up that stat specifically about because I was just curious because the game we had in Germany between the Colts and the Falcons, like, nobody converted a 3rd down until the 4th quarter. It was bananas. It was not great. It was there's 3rd down was not a good down in that game, but I looked at that game specifically, and then I looked at 8 years of games, and if you look in the final 4 minutes, so 4 minutes in the 4th quarter, it's so fascinating to see that, like, 3rd down before that, doesn't matter. None of the like, almost nothing else matters. If you're in it in the last 4 minutes of the game, that 4-minute offense, really, or 4-minute defense, depending on which side of the ball, like, that's kind of the most predictive thing of wins over the past 8 years, and, I mean, I have to go and correlated, yes. Causal, I don't know yet because, you have to go dig deeper in the data to say it's causal, but it's definitely correlated very strongly to wins. So, pretty crazy stuff that last 4 minutes just like that's it. That's the one right there, and the difference is massive. I wanna know one thing from you as a player. Is this a coveted job? Do you like, as a like, look, I think historic teams are always important jobs, right? Like, you're always gonna like, it always just matters who the coach of the Giants happens to be. Same thing with the Bears, same thing with, they're just these historic teams, the Steelers, the ones that were there first. This is a it's a tough job. I mean, the Eagles are pretty good. The Commanders pretty good. It's being a little cheeky right there, but Commanders of if they were not so injured, they have a good quarterback. They've got that right. And the Cowboys are always something, whether or not it's good. They're always something to contend with. Is this a coveted job?
anything in the NFC East is one of the most coveted jobs, in my opinion. Obviously, there's a select other franchises. I played in the AFC East, right? And the Patriots ruled the division. We're packing out road stadiums, and then I played in the AFC South, and I don't think that's the most coveted division. But that NFC East, every game feels like a rivalry,
Yep.
right? Giants, Cowboys, Giants, Eagles, Commanders back in their day, right? And then you go to Giants Stadium, it's packed. You go to Eagle Stadium, it's packed. You go to Cowboy Stadium, it's packed. You don't have a lot of road fans packing your stadium. Sometimes the Giants, when they're bad, but it's rivalries up there. I grew up in New Jersey, so I grew up in that area. That is SEC football to us. We don't care about college football up there. We care about pro football. We want to know what team you are. We got to know that right away. Are you a Cowboys fan or not? We all hate the Cowboys. So that is coveted. That's truly coveted. That's where TV ratings rule. And look at Nick Sirianni. He went from is he on the hot seat to win the Super Bowl in the same season. So you better be able to deal with that. That's what comes with that. But that's just high profile football.
Right.
And you're gonna be leading the takes on TV the next day about how your team played, good, bad, or indifferent. But that is the place that if you wanna play top in terms of coaching, you want a top spot. That is the Giants are a top coveted job, especially the ones that are gonna be available because a lot of these historic franchises, these jobs aren't available every year.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely not. Usually we see about 7, 8 jobs come open each year, which is a fourth of the league, which is a lot. One that could or could not come open to me, maybe based on the return of Joe Burrow. I know the Cincinnati Bengals aren't quite as coveted as any of those NFC East teams, and that's it's tough. It's just a tough division. Also, you know, I feel like in that the Ravens and the Steelers are maybe the more coveted jobs. I don't know because they never turn over, but I'm looking at this Bengals situation, and does Joe Burrow come back? And also, does that impact his head coach? Like, it feels like there's a lot of ripple effects here based on whether or not Joe Burrow is able to come back. Should he come back? What's your take? You're a player. I'll tell you what my math says, but you're a player, so I'm curious what that feels like.
I'm a player, but I'm not a franchise quarterback. So they're almost playing a different sport than I was playing. I would absolutely come back if it was me. If I'm Joe Burrow and my team is not in playoff contention and I know how much money I'm worth and not all those things, it's football, but you are a franchise face of a franchise, and you gotta think about the future a little bit more there than a cornerback would. So I think Joe Burrow, if they're not in playoff contention analytically, like, not gonna happen type of thing based on how they play these next few games, I wouldn't come back if I was Joe Burrow. I would save it for next year. Jamar Chase under contract, T. Higgins under contract. We can bring it back next year. Obviously, he probably doesn't say that. He probably doesn't want to do that. But if I was his advisor, that's what I'd be advising him to do.
If I'm that team, I mean, unless there's like some new study out that I'm unaware of, I just don't think that it's worth the risk because number one, where you don't have things locked down. That is not the side of the ball he plays on. Now, if you were trying to figure out who you're going to pay on offense, perhaps him coming back might have some value because then you could see where the chemistry was, but you've already paid those guys. Like you're pretty locked in on offense. Now on defense, total question mark, right? Like it feels like you're trading away captains but not Trey Hendrickson. It feels like you have to get some things right there. So for me, my efforts, if I'm the Bengals, where this season is probably not one that's going to net me in a trip to the postseason, I'm trying to figure out every single thing on my defense that I need to get all of my ducks in order because the best way to support Joe Burrow going forward, given where their cap is and everything else, would be to come up with a scheme for their defense. So, who am I getting in free agency? How do I nail the draft on this? What am I doing to really protect all of the assets I've already paid? Because they're not in the same, they have not redone their cap to the modern standards of an Eagles or someone like that, where they can make last minute or different switches and have them be impactful. They just have shown they can't do that. So if I'm them, I'm trying to fit. I'm solely focused on figuring out my defense so that I can help my quarterback not have to throw for, conservatively 7,000 yards and 600 touchdowns in a in a season. So that's what I would say. But again, that's a if you're the owner, maybe not because I do think it might not end up with Zach Taylor being their coach anymore. Maybe either way. I don't know.
Yeah, what year is this? Is this last year? They did this the same exact conversation. Like, fix it. I mean, we talked about this last year. Joe Burrow threw for X amount of yards, 4,000 on pace to be an MVP. Can't play any better, and they don't make the playoffs. So they obviously have to fix the defense.
Yep.
They changed defensive coordinators. They had a whole long contract dispute with Trey Hendrickson. They decided to agree to a one-year deal with Trey Hendrickson. They drafted Shamar Stewart, who's got 3 sacks in his life, in the first round, right? They draft D linemen and all this stuff, and they bring in Al Golden, and it's still not good defense. Like, they
And you
should have
trade away
been.
Logan Wilson, who's a captain. You
Yeah,
had
well,
by
they
the way,
benched
you
him
sat him.
prior.
He
They
was a
benched him
healthy
prior,
scratch at
yeah.
some
They
point.
benched him prior for poor play. So it's like this has been the Bengals for as long as Joe Burrow's been there. Unless back when they had Jesse Bates and real Pro Bowl players on defense who they decided not to pay and let Jesse Bates go to Atlanta and just light it up. Like, why don't pay your Pro
Ron
Bowl
Bell.
players on
There's
defense?
other ones too.
Right. So it's just like, Remember when they had like Awuzie and Jesse Bates and like actual really good defensive players that they let walk, and now they have an abysmal defense for 2 years, and now Joe Burrow is just getting hurt. So to me, this is the Bengals, man. This has been going on as long as I've been in the league. They haven't been paying their players. So don't know what they got to do over there, but you have a window with Joe Burrow, and
Yeah.
if I'm Joe Burrow, how long do I stay over there?
I mean, the other thing people don't talk about enough, last year, Jamar Chase was the Triple Crown winner on a rookie deal. Nobody would do that. Other people would have held out. And by the way, no other team would have not paid him because the chances he got hurt would be so much higher that like what are we talking about here? So they even got lucky that for a year extra they didn't have to pay number 1, Uno time. Like I'm like you got a freebie right there. That was about at least let's call it 10 million in easement, right? At least. Somebody explain this to me because these are some of the best players in the leagues and like you're not I don't know, we're lucky to be in a time where, oh gosh, we get to see Joe Burrow versus Patrick Mahomes. Oh shucks, what a terrible ratings for like it's great. Like these are some of the Josh Allen, like all these playoff guys, and then now you're sitting here being like, how about we just not invest in the defense like at all? And that defense, I remember seeing them live. You know, in the last place I saw them live was the Super Bowl. So yeah, I don't know. I that just it frustrates me because they have something like how many teams in the league would love to have Joe Burrow? I'll wait, all of them, other than the ones that have Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. Like so many teams would love that. So I don't know.
I mean, imagine being a player though. You get what you deserve. A lot of these franchises, right? Like you're Jesse Bates. You defensively help lead the Bengals and Joe Burrow, obviously, but on the defense, your side, you help lead the Bengals to the Super Bowl. You're a Cooper Cup miraculous season. Cooper Cup touchdown away from winning the Super Bowl, right? The Bengals, by the way, and another team decides to make you the highest paid safety in the NFL. Why wouldn't you guys make me the highest paid safety? What else you guys want me to do as a player? We just got the Bengals to the Super Bowl. Let's lock up our core, and we're not going anywhere for 10 years like the Chiefs do, right? Like all these other great teams have done, like the Eagles have done. Lock up the core. And the fact that Jesse Bates, like, is just one of a good friend of mine,
Yeah,
but the
Jesse's
fact that,
great.
like, you're letting guys like that walk and think you're just gonna draft somebody that is gonna replace that production, it does
There's
not
also, like, tons of
work like
studies
that.
that show that homegrown guys are the ones who end up performing better. Like, if you can pay your draft picks, you are a more winning franchise. That's a terrible way of speaking English, but the point is the more you can give a second contract to the guys that you drafted, the better your team is in terms of winning. So, that's I don't know. I just it infuriates me because you have a chance to be better than the Steelers. You have a chance to be better than the Ravens, and then you're like, "Yeah, whatever. We'll just make Joe do everything and, like, not give him anything on defense to help him out."
You said it all. I mean, absolutely, like,
It
I
makes no
you
sense.
you feel my pain as a player, and yeah, what are we complaining about first world problems, but what does it say to a locker room? I'll end with this. If I'm a young guy in a locker room and I get drafted by the Bengals and I see a guy have an all-pro season, go to the Super Bowl, and you don't pay him, does that make you think you're gonna pay me in 2, 3 years? No, it just sets a precedent, like, if you work hard and you buy in and you're all about the team
Go
and you don't get in trouble and we go to the Super Bowl, we still will not pay you, and by the way, you still gotta pay Gatorade on your own or whatever they do over there at the Bengals, and we still have no indoor facility. So, for me as a young player, I'm like, if he ain't getting paid, if they made Uno wait till his 5th year or 4th year to get paid. He got to get a triple crown to get paid. And I'm Yoshi Voss. There's no shot I think I'm getting a contract with the Bengals because look what Jamar Chase had to do just to get a contract with the Bengals. So it just sets a bad precedent, and players talk. Locker rooms are like living organisms, and it's like, yeah, this ain't it. So just count my days.
Everything is an audition for another team.
Yeah.
Like those guys just audition for every other team every week. They wanna be on more national games so they can see, "Okay, so, maybe the Falcons will want me," like Jesse Bates, right? Because, often before we used to see a lot of interdivision trades because people were very familiar with how good another player was. Well, now it's like, well, it's everyone because the Bengals are for sale. Okay, good for I don't know. Anyways, I'll stop now because I'm not even like a Like, I like the Bengals. I like the Bengals fine. I'm not anti-Bengals. I'm not, I'm a Lions fan, whatever. But like, I sit there and it makes me infuriated because you have Joe Burrow. Whatever. I'll stop now. The one team I am a fan of, the Lions. So usually it's my stat of the week, but I have to give the credit here to the 33rd team research situation, the whole research department here. Why? Because they gave me a good Dan Campbell stat, and I just can't do better than that for my stat of the week.
You love
So
a good Dan Campbell stat, I
now that
feel
Dan
like.
Campbell is calling the plays, number 1, the glasses, just like he is everyone aging. He like has them down his nose. It's just great. I love everything about it.
He's gotta get a
It's just
glasses
great.
deal. He gotta get a nice rugged I don't know what glasses company he need a nice rugged everyman's glasses deal.
Does
Not
Carhartt
designer, not designer, something that drops
no,
and don't break.
does Carhartt make glasses? Because if they do, now
Yeah, he
that's
needs
the
a Carhartt.
sponsorship that we
I
need.
like that. I like that. He needs something that is bulletproof. You could step on them.
Yeah.
Instant plug right there.
Stanley, perhaps like a Stanley tumbler. You could get the Stanley Dan Campbell. Like we are doing the Lord's marketing work right now. I mean, these
Well,
guys should
I
be going.
wish he, like, would have done that before Halloween. I think that would have been a great Halloween costume in Detroit with the glasses down the nose and the
Mhm.
Lions t-shirt. Simple
I love it.
Halloween pack, you know?
All right. Well, anyways, the Lions have been playing a lot of 12 prior to him calling. So through the first 9 weeks of the season, they were first in the league in rushing attempts with 12 personnel and 29th in the league in rushing attempts with 11 personnel. So when they had 2 tight ends on the field, they were rushing the football. It was kind of maybe a tell. When they had 3 wide receivers, it was not going to be a run. So yesterday, week 10, the Lions ran the ball just 7 times for 38 yards when they were using 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets, and 24 times for 185 yards using 11 personnel, so 3 wide receiver sets. So there's a lot more motion as well with 11 personnel than they had been doing prior as well. So that means a lot more opportunities, specifically in this matchup for Jamison Williams. So they were just going speed versus not speed, let's call it that, because the Commanders were pretty banged up. But the differences here are it feels like perhaps Dan Campbell is taking this team under his wing and knowing what they do best and selecting for that, which is pretty much the best way. Like that is what analytics is set up to do, but that is also what players probably very much enjoy. Like, hey, leverage my speed. I'm JMO. I'm a blazer. I can get everywhere. And getting both he and Amon-Ra St. Brown into the end zone, big deal for a team that, the week prior had a very strange loss against the Vikings where they did not look, Dan Campbell said it. They didn't look like themselves. I don't think anyone thought they looked like themselves on offense. That's not to say they couldn't lose to the Vikings looking like themselves, but they didn't look like themselves. So it was strange. So what do you think about Dan Campbell calling plays? Are you as into it as me?
I love it. I do, and I can break that 11 and 12 stuff down if you give me 2 minutes. It's a big thing of my career. So what happens is when you go to 11 personnel, that means you have 3 wide receivers, okay? 3 wide receivers out there. So usually you're gonna see nickel defense. That means they're gonna take out a linebacker and put in a nickel, right? A 6 DB to cover Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's in the slot. That's where the nickel lines up. That's where the slot receiver. They have one of the best slot receivers. So you have to bring a DB on the field because you don't want Amon-Ra matched up with a linebacker. We obviously know what that will look like. And what happens is the Lions are just running the ball versus nickel defense. So they put more DBs. We got a big old line. We got big backs, fast backs. Amon-Ra can block. He'll block that nickel, and then we'll sit there and run against that. Then when they go 12 personnel, that's 2 tight ends, only 2 wide receivers. So one of the wide receivers coming out the game. Not Amon-Ra. They'll just take out the other guy. Amon-Ra will go from the slot to outside. So now you have J-Mo and Amon-Ra, your 2 wide receivers, Laporta, and another blocking tight end. And they'll run the ball and then they'll pass the ball because now you have a linebacker on the field. You took your nickel off, right? So they get you in big people defense, 3 linebackers, and they throw the ball against you because Laporta will now have a matchup against against the linebacker. And Sam Laporta can win that, right? And then they put you in 11 personnel, get you a nickel, small defense, and they bully you and run the ball. That's what a lot of teams try to do. So what made me valuable as a player was that I played nickel, right? I could cover guys like Amon-Ra well enough, but I can also tackle well enough in the box. So we would just play nickel versus everything, meaning we're staying in our little people package, and Logan will just play linebacker. And I would have to fit the runs like a linebacker. And a lot of DBs don't know how to do that. So instead of adjusting the cat and mouse game with the offensive play caller, we would just stay in our defense. And I would have to adjust. And I have to play linebacker some plays. Then I have to go cover Amon Ra. And that's what made me my valued for 10 plus years in the NFL is my ability to tackle and do both. And then if I'm able to tackle you in 12 personnel, then we're all right. We can stay in that all day because I can cover Laporta and I can tackle. If you don't have a nickel that can do that and you're subbing and trying to match personnel every time and try to guess, they'll just do the opposite. When you're in small people, they'll run the ball. When you're in big people, they'll pass the ball. So you need versatile DBs. I doubt the Commanders had that defensively,
They're
obviously.
so banged up.
And then
Like,
they're able to sit there and they'll have multiple plays called. So say, oh, who's out here? Oh, the nickel's in the game. All right, Amon-Ra, motion down. Let's run the ball. Oh, who's out here? Oh, the linebacker's in the game. All right, Amon-Ra, Sam, stand up. Run the slot routes. Run Amon-Ra's routes because they have a versatile slot and they have a versatile nickel. And that's a lot of how the New England Patriots play football with Gronk and Edelman, right? And that's just the cat and mouse game, having versatile tight ends and versatile slot receivers.
I love that. And get you one who can do both is very like it sounds like it's an easy thing to do. Oh, find a you glossed over that piece just a bit when it deserves a little bit more recognition here. Like linebackers often can't play defensive back and defensive back can't often play linebacker. Those two things don't it's not as easy as it sound like you made it sound very easy what you did. That is not easy
Well, it's
at
not
all.
easy physically. It's not easy physically, right? Because I have to go in the box, right, where all the linemen are,
Yep.
and have to play bigger. I'm 195 pounds. Linebackers are 230. So I have to go hit, bang in the box, right, with guys all 30, 40 pounds more than me. But it's harder mentally because you have to know the fits of a linebacker, plus you have to know the roles of a DB. So you have to be able to handle it more mentally than physically. And that's why, you know, there's only a select few that got paid what I got paid to play what I played because I was kind of a unicornish in that position. I played bigger than my size and smart enough to do multiple positions. So that is why I'm a co-host on NFL IQ now.
Exactly, you are the IQ. So my
Yeah.
other note here that kind of maybe this will crystallize a little bit with some of our listeners is, Jamal Adams got drafted very high to play safety. And now in the latter part of his career, he is only playing linebacker. Doing both was not something he's able to do even now on the Raiders who could use his services as both. And he was drafted 3? Like top 5 overall by the Jets. So, just so you know, like, even the guys who are the highest drafted in this can't necessarily do it. So, just giving you a little bit more shine because that's I
Oh,
mean,
I appreciate it.
but it's
I'll
true, it's
shine some
very
light.
hard to do.
Yeah, because sometimes uncomfortable taking praise. I'll shine some light on some other people as well who do it. Like Buda Baker does it a lot. Tyrann Mathieu made a career out of being very, very versatile and very play big for how small he is. That's why he's called the Honey Badger. And Derwin James, does a lot of playing multiple positions and playing in the box and playing safety. And what does that mean? It just allows them to match all these offenses. Derwin can cover them. Derwin covered Amon-Ra. Derwin covered Kelsey or a tight end. Also, Derwin can play safety. Also, Derwin can blitz. So it allows the defense to have the advantage as opposed to the offensive always having the advantage. So those are a few guys that do it how I did it, and some even at a better level. But those are definitely some of those guys where I'm like, okay, I see what they're doing. And that was some of the responsibilities I was tasked for quite a few years.
Yeah, it's hard to see it unless you really know what to look for too, because I mean, Buda Baker's just everywhere, but you're like, you have to see pre, during, post. Like where to see like you have to watch the whole anyways. So it's just hard to do. And those are, you could only think of three, 4 names that are really good at it. So it's an elite category. So we have to give you a little bit more shine there. But some other places that we want to give you a little bit of shine. I saw when I was watching from my hotel room in Germany, I'm watching the games and all of a sudden, one of the games I was most interested in of the entire weekend, the top of the NFC is so fascinating to me. Obviously, the Bucks had a home game against someone at the top of the AFC in the Patriots, and I'm minding my own business, watching a game on a tiny little screen because I don't know how it all works when you're abroad, but it wasn't on the regular TV. And there pops my co-host It was so much fun watching you in the broadcast booth with Jim Nantz, Tony Romo. Tell us everything.
Tom Brady couldn't make it, so it was the Logan Ryan Bowl. So I pulled up, played for both teams, played for Todd Bowles, played for Mike Vrabel. So look, this is a little story about career, right? I'm in the second year of a new career, broadcasting games, which we've talked about. You've always shown love, right? But that's a different career than playing. It's just because you play don't mean you'll be a good broadcaster. So I'm a go-getter, right? So I have an off weekend because I called a Tuesday game and I was off this weekend. And I saw that the A team, Tony Romo, Jim Nantz, were in Tampa. I called my boss. I was like, hey, can I please job shadow these guys? I don't even know if job shadowing is a thing in this industry, but I want to go and just see how the best do it. And Jim Nantz is the best at what he does. And Tony Romo is one of the best at what he does. So they said, yeah, absolutely. So I called the director because the director of the game, producer of the game as well, Jim Rickoff, who's one of the best at what he does. And these guys, Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Jim Rickoff, not only do they produce Super Bowls, right? They also do the Masters. They also do March Madness. So Jim Nantz has been calling Tiger Woods' whole career, and they also produce all those games. Also, our March Madness chance that we all tune into. So this is the best of the best in the world at what they do. So not only did they let me shadow, they brought me in the process. I was part of interviewing the coaches, doing the production meetings. I obviously know Todd very well. I obviously know Vrabes really well. So some of my questions hit a little deeper, which got some insight. Some of my stuff got on air. Long story short, time to come to the game. I was with the crew since Friday, behind the scenes, not on social media, just watching, learning, taking notes. And I said, man, you know what? What do I wear to the game? I don't want to wear my CBS blazer. I'm not working. I don't want to wear a red jacket because I play for the Patriots. I don't want to wear blue. So I just threw on a gray suit. Gray. I didn't want to come off with summer wedding vibes, but I threw on a gray suit, and just dressed the part. Never know. So I threw on a gray suit. I spent the first quarter up in the booth with the boys, spent some time on the sideline with Tracy Wolfson, also one of the best sideline reporters in the world, right? And I'm with everybody. I'm on the sideline. I'm in the booth, seeing how they do certain things for TV. Then Jim's like, come to the truck. So the second quarter, I'm in the truck and I'm learning about all the camera angles and how much goes into the production of a football game is insane, right? So you get to see how many people are working this game to get the right shots for the viewers and how much coordination they have. Again, the number one crew in the world, in my opinion. So I come up at halftime for my second quarter in the truck, and I'm back there. I might have been eating a chicken tender. We're getting the third, fourth quarter, and I'm watching Tony and Jim do their thing on the back, fly on the wall. And they're like, all right, guys, get the green screen up, and we'll do the thing with Logan now. And I'm like, what thing with Logan? Like, I'm sitting there like, huh? And they're like, get a headset on and come stand in the middle. We're throwing you on. And there was no prep. I think they try to surprise me. I had no idea that was coming, but I was able to, I had the suit on. I was prepared. I prepared for the game. And they threw me on some national TV time and asked me a couple questions about both teams. And I definitely earned their respect. And it was cool because you know what? I was over prepared for the opportunity, right? And the opportunity met, and they threw me on national TV. I didn't wear a Nike Tech sweatsuit. I came with a nice suit on, and I prepared to call the game like I was Tony. And I'm happy that those guys not only saw that, but gave me the respect to throw me on TV. So it was so cool. Big brother Jim Nantz is great to me, and Tony was amazing to watch. He called a great game. So it was a great advice for anyone out there that wants to move up in their career. Go ask the shadow, go see how the best do it. Go see how people do it. And they honestly were flattered that I wanted to come. I thought it was normal, but a lot of people don't do this in this industry, I guess I've learned. And it was so cool of CBS to let that happen. And obviously it turned out to some TV time, but I learned a lot, and I'm definitely going to take that going forward in my career.
Well, you crushed it, and I was, like, cheering from my room and room, like, "Woo!" Also, I told you this before, we're gonna talk about it again, but Tracy Perlman, who is in charge of, like, the player engagement stuff at the NFL, she
Yeah.
was at the game in Germany, and ahead of the game that I was at, she she and I were fighting over who liked you more. So, like, "No, no, I think Logan's no, 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 I think Logan's the best. No, no, no." And so you have the respect not only from, the NFL side and now the TV side and the fan side, but all of it. And it just goes to show you have never not shown up over prepared. You've never not shown up like dressing for the job you want. You came there shadowing. You didn't have to wear a suit. Like no one would have had you been wearing Nike Tech, people would have been like, that's normal because he wasn't planning on being like, you have to do all of those things to be excellent. And I know I appreciate it greatly, but just so you know, from NFL side to the fan side, everyone sees it, everyone appreciates it. I know, like, I sometimes I'm like, when can he stop getting better? And then you do something else. And you're like, well, nope, he just keeps getting
Oh,
better.
man.
He just keeps getting better
You
and
know
better.
what?
So great guy.
My
Love it.
dad's been telling me my whole life, dress for the job you want, not for the one you have, and all that stuff. And I can't always say it always hit, but that in that moment, I was like, okay, that one, I'm happy that I kind of have the habits that I have and did it that way. Because if I didn't, I would have looked I would have lost a job on that national TV if I was not prepared the way I was. So it was kind of cool. And I love Tracy, love working with you. I mean, you guys are look, I've been playing the game a long time and I know the game, but what you guys do on the other side is magic in its own right. And I have a lot of respect for people in media that have been doing it longer than me. And obviously I'm trying to prove my ground in a whole different career. So, you kind of start somewhere near the bottom. Maybe I start in the middle, not fully at the bottom, but
Get a couple
I'm
Super
trying to
Bowl
climb
rings. You
my
don't
way
have
up.
to, you get to skip the bad parts. I
Yeah,
will
yeah,
say,
10 years, 11 years, couple Super Bowls. I'm at the bottom. I'm not at the bottom of the ladder by any means. I'm not even gonna act like that. But for all those people grinding and really putting it in, man, it was a cool moment to put the work in. Hopefully, it'll pay off.
one of the things that I did because again, nowhere near comparable to you, but I didn't start in this industry at all. I started buying tech, doing big data, like doing analytics
Yeah, tell your
the
story. I love your story.
yeah, well, but ultimately, one of the things I've done since then is I have requested doing preseason sideline, which is a little chaotic, like compared
Yeah.
to sideline for a national broadcast. I was very fortunate to always be a studio person, which is very spoiled. And I have since asked to go back and do sideline. And I worked with Jim Rickoff doing Jets sideline not that many years, a couple years ago, but it was really amazing to see the kind of prep involved, like to just understand, like, in that regard, I got a chance to work with Ian Eagle, who I think is just amazing. I love
Oh,
Ian.
he's
He's so
great
funny,
too.
and see what those guys, how they prepped. And then subsequently worked with, right now I do preseason with the Broncos. I did it with the Bills as well. Andrew Catalon with the Bills. And then of course, Steve Levy, who's a freaking legend, is who does the Broncos. And of course Ryan Harris with him as well. So I just think going back and taking some of those steps that maybe I skipped because I wasn't a broadcaster, didn't grow up in this, like, that has been very helpful to me. So I'm sure in addition to learning all the things you learned, you also got a chance to see, like, the grind is something people don't, like, fully appreciate. Myself, I didn't either until I went back and, like I said, preseason a little more chaotic than what you experienced, but
Yeah.
but still fun, still great.
Man, Jim Nantz started talking when I was up there, and I was like, I froze. Like, yo, this is Jim Nantz. This guy's doing Tiger Woods
Oh,
Masters moments. Like, he's iconic. I mean, he's up there, in my opinion, Morgan Freeman, and then like Jim Nantz with the voice. He can voice anything,
when
and it's
he
just
introduces
seeing.
one shining moment every year, there's like I love March Madness, and but one shining moment situation, I'm like, well, damn, Jim, okay, you make me cry now.
The
So
Super Bowls
stupid.
that we all watch. He's the voice of it. So to see that person put that time in and see what he's doing for this game was so cool to see, and it was really reaffirming to know that I'm doing enough,
You're doing
I'm
great.
doing plenty of work in my own games and stuff, and for him to say, like, "That was a great question, Logan," or, "I'm gonna use that," I'm like so to me, look, I can always learn. I don't care about Super Bowl trophies behind me. There's always something to learn, and I'm learning a lot, and I took a lot from that experience. So anybody out there, if you're trying to move up in any career, job shadowing, seeing people who do it,
Yes.
you learn more that way than in any classroom. And it's something I'm looking forward to doing again. Whether I get on TV or not, it's not my intention.
No, you
But
need some.
the fact that I was ready, had that suit shining, ironed and everything, it paid off,
That's right.
So
Summer wedding vibes.
it was a good one. Summer wedding vibes. I was worried about it, but it was the right decision.
Let's see what Ben's been thinking about this week. I'm curious what his question is.
Yeah, I gotta jump in a little bit here too as well on this because it's always a pleasure for me to be able to hop on with you guys, people that I've always idolized for a long time and stuff. And my dad, I got to give him a little bit of credit here as well. Basically, always just saying, "What can you do to help? What can you do to help?" My dad also give a little shout out here. Happy Veterans Day. My dad was a Navy veteran. Always seeing what he can do to help for the country. all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And Logan, I do have to say, though, the only hate that I saw online about you being in the booth was the fact they didn't let you stay the rest of the game. That was the only thing. People were like, no, 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 no. He needs to be in the booth the rest of the game.
I mean, I might have been calling out the team's plays though. I was too close to it, man. I was too close to these coaches to probably call this one, but it was a great game though. It was a great finish, and it was a cool moment.
Well, we've really been enjoying the football season this year. There's been a lot of fun action, a lot of big games. My question this week, though, is about the games that we have not been able to see. Because my question for you guys is what I've been thinking about is, when am I going to be able to watch Monday Night Football again? Because I, like many people, pay for YouTube TV. It's a great service that allows me to watch a lot of things that I wouldn't be able to see otherwise. But that's not without its shortcomings. We've seen this now for years, disputes between carriers, the different channels, all that kind of stuff. I just am curious when I'm going to be able to watch Monday Night Football again.
Look, I'll tell you a game I didn't watch was Monday Night Football. And because I turned it on and I forgot about the whole thing, and it's not on YouTube TV. That's how I pay for Red Zone, I pay all these things. I have a million subscriptions and I couldn't get the game, right? And I don't even know how to pirate a game anyway, so I don't even know how to steal the game. So I'm like, "Yo, how do I even watch this?" I put my kids to bed and I told my wife, I said, "I have to watch this game because I literally have an NFL podcast." And she's like, "Tell people you couldn't watch it," because they couldn't watch it either. And she's right. It was ridiculous. So shout out to my wife, Ashley, for telling the truth. I woke up today and caught the highlights. I'm not going to lie, because I couldn't watch the game. I would try to pull it up on my phone in bed, and I'm a two-time Super Bowl champion trying to watch Monday Night Football on my bed. This is something on a cell phone. This is something that I grew up watching Monday Night Football as a kid. It made me want to play in the NFL. It should be easily accessible for us. If it's not on YouTube TV, it should be free for me to watch somewhere else. But it is a travesty what's going on and not be able to catch these very important games because I didn't even know how to go about getting it. And by the time I pulled it up on NFL.com, it was a wrap. I shut my lights off, went to bed, and I didn't miss a lot apparently. But I think it's a true travesty to real fans, the true fans that are not able to watch Monday Night Football easily right now.
Well, I'm gonna pull out my, like, MBA moment because if I'm still paying for the degree, I should probably at least, use it every now and again. But I'm looking at this from the standpoint of, like, what will the case study be on this in business schools later, right? Like, so you got 2 companies, a very confusing distribution plan for anything, for both companies, really. Like, how much do rights cost? How do they recoup that money, et cetera, et cetera? Do we have, dual streams like ESPN used to have, that kind of thing? When I'm looking at this situation, I'm looking at the people involved and they know each other. So the funny part here is Justin Conley, who now runs Google from the standpoint of sports. He used to be at ESPN. He used to be the one on the other side of this negotiation table. Now he's negotiating against the people that were his bosses at ESPN. So I find the personal aspect of this very funny and not dissimilar from the case study of NFL Network, where I work, when they first became a network and were only in 43 million homes or some number like that. And they were trying to figure out how to price and figure out Thursday Night Football as it came into the market and getting into fighting loggerheads. Steve Bornstein, he came from ABC, ESPN, and then he went to the NFL Network. So history it may not always repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes. And here's just another example in the business world of history rhyming. What I think will ultimately end up happening is some version of probably, I mean, look, it's just a different world now because ESPN's now trying to get people to sign up for, in addition to ESPN Plus, an ESPN app that has a price associated with it in order to get those certain rights. It's very confusing from a consumer standpoint. YouTube is saying we're paying for, we're giving you red zone rights and this and this money isn't working, and the bundling that you're trying to do, Disney, doesn't work for us, blah blah blah. I think at some point we'll get some splitting the baby from them because in reality, both are very rich companies. Nobody here is hard up for cash. It's not a big guy versus a little guy. It's two Davids, not two Davids. It's two Goliaths going at it. We'll get some version of splitting the baby. Now the question really remains, how long will that take? And my sense is it will probably be resolved, I would think, before Thanksgiving. because that's a pretty major time when people are, spending time at home and they don't want to mess up their ratings because they get ad carriage. An ad is based on a CPM, which is based on how many people watch. So maybe that's a nerdy business school answer, but I think we'll see it. Got up to 2 weeks more.
I thought it
Oh,
was
I
going to
don't
be before
know.
the Packers-Eagles game. I thought it was going to.
Well, I thought the Cowboys, you'd think that America's team, right? Like, you'd think the Cowboys last week would be one where you wouldn't have that standoff, and I do think it's weird that, like, I'll keep my weirdness to myself, but I think it's strange when you ask your employees to promote go anyways, that was strange, but other than that, I'm not crying for either side of this, negotiation. Oh, it's very valid. Bad for consumers. The only person crying consumers, it's terrible. Awful. And just so everyone knows, Hulu is also owned by Disney. So if you're doing Hulu Plus Live, you are paying Disney again. It's like people sometimes like they don't know that. So
Who has
it's
live sports? Why not? So
but
I
it's
will
true.
say
Like,
this.
but
Look,
that's also,
we,
who owns that now? Disney. Hulu used to be a joint venture between all of the major networks, and now it's owned by Disney. So you're giving money to Disney one way or another. The mouse is getting you one way or
it's
another.
just the mouse got them pockets. He got me too. But this is like
It's
this is
bad.
crunch time. This is crunch time. The weather's getting colder and it's getting darker with the time change. And it's a Monday night. People just woke up in the dark, went to work, got home in the dark, and they just want to watch the Monday Night Football. And I don't. I might speak for some other people out there. I don't care how much money you made. I made some money in my life.
No, it's yeah.
I'm not getting another app. I can't get another app, bro. The streaming apps are killing me. I'm paying for everything. And when I go on my ESPN, I don't have it. What? I thought I had ESPN. I go on my bundles, don't have that. It's not in this. I got to pull the dish back out. I'm about to blow the dust off the dish because sports will be easily accessible, man. I'm paying for everything under the sun on
Yep.
my monthly bill, apparently.
I know. So
And
here are
for
the
Monday Night
matchups. So
Football
this
not be
week,
one of them was
week
I had to
11,
veto it,
it's
man. I went to bed. I had to veto it. Caught it on Good Morning Football. Looked like I said I didn't miss much, but man, it was tough.
this week it's Dallas at Vegas. That's week 11. Week 12, it's Carolina at San Francisco. Week 13, Giants at New England. Week 14, Eagles at Chargers. I just don't know which one here. Like those aren't as to me. How much more premium do you get than what happened last night? I just don't know if there's a better matchup left.
And I think it's a valid thing to also just like talk about it from a larger perspective. This has nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with that.
Well, it's not
But
politics. It's just
football is a unifying thing. Rich people watch football, poor people watch football, people on the left, people on the right. This is a space where everyone can come together and enjoy something. And like you guys were
allegedly.
saying, this is something that we had circled. This would be something we would have circled to sit down, watch with the family, watch Monday Night Football. I just, and again, YouTube TV is, and in many ways now, this is a replacement for cable, like people like myself, and I mean, I didn't even have cable when I grew up as a kid for a while. Like, we were antenna, bunny ears, all that kind of stuff. So like, it's just, I don't know. The winners in this will eventually be the people that are getting the money, and the losers are all of us because we've missed out on at least 2 weeks of Monday Night Football.
Yeah. And last night was at least on paper, it didn't turn out to be the most amazing matchup, but
Maybe we get
Packers.
that half back. Maybe about half of it.
Let me decide that. And rich and poor people ain't buying no more apps. I'll tell you that.
No.
I'm checked out. Netflix went up on me. The prices
They're all going up.
they're hiding the fees on me. My bill is crazy. I pay a lot. I pay a lot.
I just can't check my email anymore.
Yeah, my bills are crazy every month for enough streaming to watch all these games and do my job. But man, that one hurt me because I forgot about it. So
Hey, maybe that should be your prediction this week is when it's going to be back.
Cynthia said Thanksgiving, so I'll put her on
I
the
think
book.
by Thanksgiving just feels like you got to figure out the advertising spend on that, I guess. I don't know. I feel like it's just a bummer because you don't want, I don't know. I love being able to talk about Monday Night Football with everyone, and even the Twitter conversations, it turns to like this vitriol about not being able to watch, but whatever. So let's go with our predictions. Just so you know, last week, Zach correctly picked the Patriots to beat the Bucks, and I was one pass defense off about Sauce. He had one. I said he's gonna have two. So, and he slid. I watched it. It was slippery there in Berlin. It was also like if you want to watch like a dramatic football movie with like the fog and stuff. Like, that's what it was like in person there. It was pretty wild. But so I was totally wrong. You only had one pass defense and not two. But what are our predictions for this week, Logan? I'll let you go first.
Oh, man, put me on the spot.
Well, I mean,
Well,
there's a few really good games this week.
there are some good games. Felt like I've been cooking with gas. I first of all, we gotta go back about my Colts
Oh,
upset.
we
I
gave
said the
you love
Colts.
for that.
Okay, making
You weren't
sure.
there, but we gave you love for
I
that.
wasn't there.
You
Okay,
crushed
yeah,
that.
I got it right with the Colts, right? Because
The Steelers beating the Colts is what you predicted, and that's exactly what happened.
man, I'm looking. You know what? There's been a lot of obvious. This might not be a barn burner by any means, but you pulled some easy ones out the hat sometimes. Look,
Let me right.
I've had to do some stuff about the Steelers, offense and the
Yep.
woes and are they going to be good enough? And Aaron Rodgers, obviously Mike Tomlin's comment. Look, they're about to play this Bengals defense. So Aaron Rodgers is about to have the best game of his career for who they're playing. But I also am standing on, I believe that the Steelers are going to finish the year strong. And I believe that Aaron Rodgers is the right quarterback for them. And he has some magic left in his tank here, right? And they got to get going because the Ravens are coming. And we've predicted that the Ravens are not out by any means. So I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers having the best game of the season so far
Okay.
against the Bengals, which he had a big one the last time he played the Bengals. But I think the Bengals defense continues to get worse. I think that Steelers offense gets fixed. I got Aaron Rodgers with a big performance this week.
Okay, so should we say that's like 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns? Like, what are we
303 touchdowns,
Okay.
250, and 3 touchdowns.
Just curious which one you think will be a better game for viewers, the Rams, Seahawks, or the Broncos, Chiefs, or the Eagles, Lions? Because those we have we're kinda spoiled this week. Those are 3 pretty great weeks.
You know what? They're all great. But I'm going to go with one that people may not say, and that's going to be the Rams Seahawks. Because I will say this, I will remiss. I hit on a lot of things. The Seahawks are freaking good, Cynthia. You're right. Okay, they're good. I talked about there's no shot they're winning that division. This is a guy that's going to be a key game for that. I got the Rams coming out the NFC, so I think the Rams up against the Seahawks. What the Seahawks are doing offensively and defensively is not slowing down.
No.
They have legitimized some things here, and I think that's going to be a very interesting game based on a division and the meaning of all that stuff of who's going to win that division and host home playoff games because I think the Rams, like I told you, are going to the Super Bowl. So I think this is a big game they need to win in order to do that. Home field helps them. Matt Stafford inside, all these things that I need to have happen. But it starts with this one. So I think that's a real one that I got my eye on.
All right. I like that one. I wanted to take a Cooper Kupp touchdown against his former team because I like
Mm.
revenge. That's something that I think could happen. My problem is that he hasn't been completely healthy. So if he were healthy, I would have said because I do think like the Clint Kubiak notion of like, let's rally around something, and that's something to rally around. Like they didn't want you, but we do. You're gonna be great here. Like I like that idea. But he's not super healthy. So I'm gonna go in a different direction for this one because I'm very curious. To me, Chiefs Broncos is super interesting because the Broncos have a chance to win the division. They have 2 matchups with the Chiefs left. So, with some weird losses from the Chiefs, there are now opportunities for the Broncos to win this division. Do I think their offense has looked in rhythm? Nope. But even Sean Payton said it, and he said it all the way from preseason. He doesn't want his quarterback taking sacks. So he'll rather want to do weird out of rhythm stuff than take a sack. Like that is the trade-off he's willing to live with. And that's why we've seen like 1 bajillion screen passes. But I think in this matchup, I think we see the Troy Franklin touchdown again. I don't know who I think wins yet. I haven't gone through all of the games because I just got back from Germany, but I like the duck to duck situation between Bo Nix and Troy Franklin on a deep touchdown against the Chiefs, who, the Buffalo Bills did show us a little something about where to target them.
So you got Troy Franklin getting in the end zone. Okay. I like that. That's pretty random. I like that
It's a
one.
little
Not
random,
not that it's
but
random, like, won't happen, but it's like, I didn't know that was coming. But That's another great game, though. That is a great game. Jim Nantz and Tony Romo will be calling that game. I will not be shadowing them this week.
I mean, I feel
But
like if you flew out to where is it? I can't remember if it's in Buffalo or in Kansas. I think it's or in,
it's in Denver.
is it in Denver? I
Yeah.
mean, if you want to, I'm sure they woulda let you.
They will, yeah, no doubt. I'm trying to avoid air traffic right now, if you haven't
Yeah.
I know you've seen, so I am
Maybe that's the real question. What will end sooner? The YouTube ESPN standoff or, like, weird stuff with shutdowns?
I know, and right now it's because 'cause I'm not flying, I just wanna watch Monday Night Football, so that pisses me off, but what I've seen people show me th what the airports are looking like, that is not good. I got a lot of family up in the New Jersey, New York region, and Newark Airport, and people are sleeping there, flights delayed days,
Don't
not
come to
hours,
LAX then.
days.
LAX
So
is
it is, it's crazy. I'm gonna have obviously start traveling pretty soon again to call games, to finish up the year, and,
I love it. I love it.
I
What
got an email today that said, "Plan accordingly, fly out early if you need to. We still need you on site." I'm like, "Oh, man, that's not good."
Yeah, truly, truly. We still need you. You just need to be here. Just fly on a Tuesday instead of a Thursday, because that's the only way we can guarantee you're here on time.
Yeah, it's about to get bad for your
Well,
boy
hey,
during the,
week 11 has at least some really great games this week. So, of the games we can watch, we'll be able to see Jim Nantz and Tony Romo calling some good ones. Just saying.
yeah. This is look, I love the schedule makers because to me, like, you hear football players and you hear some franchise say, "Football doesn't start till Thanksgiving. Football doesn't start till November." But this is when all the fluff's gone, all right? You kinda know you got your injuries, you know who's not, who you know who's not. Your young rookies aren't rookies anymore, like Travion Henderson, right? Like, now it's time where we know what we got and we gotta go. And, this is the time of year where, your boy comes off a cruise and joins a team, like, not saying that, but this is the time of year where my blood gets flowing. Like, all right, all that other stuff's out the way. The final 6 games of the year, the final 7 games of the year. This is the time we're really gonna make that push to, whether you're gonna win a title or not. The Mike Vrabel told me in our meeting, the, Patriots in '01 were 5-5, and then they won 9 straight, won a Super Bowl. So this is the time where you go on those runs where you get hot at the right time. You start establishing that in November.
I love it. Well, we're getting hot at exactly the right time because week 11, and we're just getting started here on NFL IQ. So, hey, man, we love it. We appreciate you for hanging out. We appreciate you, Logan. You're the best. I loved watching you in the booth. I was I felt like a proud sister. I was like, oh, there he is. Oh my goodness. I was screaming in my hotel room, whatever. But I appreciate you, and I can't wait to talk to you ahead of week 12. Make sure everybody subscribes, likes, follows, comments. We love to read the comments. I know I enjoy a good comment. And Logan, thank you so much for hanging out. I'll see you next week.
Let's do it next week.